And back to China, we are just 20 days away from the next round of tariffs. Here now is Senior Policy Advisor at America First Policies, Curtis Ellis. So, Curtis, this report of some kind of agreement on IP, does that make the first phase passable within the next couple of weeks?
Well, this is, again, one of those rumors that we keep hearing time to time out of China, that they've budged a little, that maybe they're going to put some penalties in place for IP theft. The sticking point always is enforcement. We cannot trust the Chinese to enforce whatever laws they put on the books. You know, by the way, the Ukraine has great anti-corruption laws.
Right, I know. But so, how do you, just to follow up, how do you get through that? Because at some point, you're going to have some deal, hopefully, with China. How do you enforce it?
Well, this is what Ambassador Lighthizer, our U.S. trade representative, has been working on for some time. We thought we had a deal back in May where if the Chinese don't live up to what they say they're going to do, tariffs increase, tariffs snap back, tariffs even increase. You know, and this whole IP thing now is getting way out of line, or we're getting ahead of ourselves, because starting next year, there's a new Chinese cybersecurity law that every byte, every bit of data in China has to be available to the Chinese government and the intelligence services. So there will be no private messages, no encrypted messages, no confidential data, no trade secrets. Every company doing business in China has to have its computer networks completely accessible.
Sounds like a great place to be.
Yeah.
Sign me up. You know, the interesting thing you mentioned, though, Curtis, is with respect to, let's just say, and you know, this is weird because I've kind of changed my stripes a bit on the trade deal. I have to say, breaking news. I actually think something's going to get done, and something maybe with some teeth in it. So let's just say that we can get down that road of maybe some IP protection. Tariffs come off, then in that case, handicap that for me as far as what comes off and when.
Again, it's a matter of enforcement, and tariffs are what brought China to the table to even start talking about doing something. I would be very leery to see tariffs being removed because those are the enforcement mechanisms. That's the
So in December, the best outlook then is that no additional tariffs, but not any rollback.
Isn't it interesting how when we first started down this road, everybody said tariffs are going to destroy the economy, tariffs is horrible, horrible, horrible. The economy is still doing quite well, thank you. And now we're debating, will we put more tariffs on or not? And now everybody's going to be happy if we don't put more tariffs on. So
Curtis, in the extensive conversations that we've all had about this, do you ever hear any linkage between what's going on in Hong Kong and the trade discussions? I mean, are the Chinese concerned enough about their public image, about the impact Hong Kong is having on mainland China's economy? Because we know there is an impact. I mean, is that at all important to this discussion, do you think?
Absolutely. You said the magic word, linkage.
Yeah.
Look at this Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. What it does is it brings us back to where we were in 1999, where human rights is linked to everything with China. Before 2000, China was up for an annual review of its human rights record. It could not get most favored nation trade status. It could not get tariff relief if it did not pass this human rights review. Under this new law, we see that Hong Kong must be reviewed annually to see if is it indeed
By the way, it's
autonomous.
not a law yet. It's still a bill because the president
Correct.
hasn't signed it. Is the president going to sign it?
It's expected that he would sign it. Look at the political calculus. We've got veto-proof majorities that passed unanimously in the Senate. The president does not want to get on the wrong side of the Senate for many reasons.
For sure.
Curtis, today we hit a record high on the Dow, and we continue to do so. This expansion is just wonderful, and stocks have been climbing high, so it's great for investors. You mentioned that it hasn't really been hitting companies, and yet could you just weigh in on the CEO sentiment, which has hit a 10-year low, and the fact that we're not seeing the investments when it comes to equipment and all that within companies.
Right.
So there's something that's bothering them.
Right. They all want certainty. I would suggest there's a great case to be made that if you want certainty, make these tariffs permanent, and then they can invest in America.
Yeah, that's a great point, because then they can, well, America or switch to
someplace
Taiwan.
or Taiwan.
Yeah.
Apple's bringing back jobs to Texas.
Curtis, that plan has been open since 2013, by the way.
But they added jobs.
Let me follow up, Curtis, quickly on that idea of making the tariffs permanent. Just this week, the Port of Los Angeles was out with a study. They said the existing tariffs, are costing $1.8 billion in economic activity and risking up to 1.5 million jobs. So is it your estimation that the tariffs are actually benefiting the U.S. economy and that we should keep them because they are the tariffs helping the U.S. economy in your estimation?
Yes, in my estimation, the tariffs are helping the U.S. economy. The U.S. became the greatest power on earth when we had much higher tariffs than we have now. It was after the tariffs on China were removed in 2000 that we saw the drain of manufacturing jobs. We saw the growing inequality. We saw growing deficits because of no tax revenues. If you don't have jobs and you don't have factories, you got nobody paying into coffers. So.
By the way, final question, we got to jump. Is China, do you think, playing politics? They know our election is coming up. They study our political situation domestically. Are they playing politics? Do they think they could get a better deal with the Democratic administration?
Absolutely, they do. All they have to do is watch the Democratic debates, and they've got Kamala Harris promising to get rid of tariffs. You have Mayor Pete talking out of both sides of his mouth, calling it Trump's trade war, when everybody knows China is waging this trade war.
Mayor Bloomberg said that President Xi is not a dictator.
Right. General Secretary Xi is not a dictator.
We got to leave it at that. Great to see you, Curtis. Thank you very much. Well, remember that disastrous Tesla